Hello and welcome. The video you are about to watch is a recorded version of our special intense learning class, where in our day one, we talked about C from scratch. And so what you are about to watch is a practical hands-on video that explains some of the basic concepts in C from the scratch in a way that even a 6-year-old can understand everything you are going to watch here. So pay attention to the details you are going to learn now, and I really hope you enjoy this video. If this video proves helpful for you, please like and subscribe to my channel. Also share the video with others so that they can understand. And yes, you can join us in our special class where we'll be, for the next 3 weeks, discussing extensively about the C programming language and how it relates to problem solving. So as you learn all the new concepts and ideas, try to think about how these things you've learned relate to problem solving. That makes you a great programmer. I hope you have a wonderful time watching this video and practicing everything you learned from it. I'm Bright Daniel from Bwave ICT. Enjoy. If you know how to use Ubuntu, your common issues with VI, swap files, the shell, the terminal, you'll be used to it because you would be using the official software for that. So that's why I would use Ubuntu and not code blocks necessarily to teach you. For your own learning, you can continue to use code blocks. Let's use this Ubuntu this time. If you want to download it, you download from Microsoft Store. Please do not download from Google. Download from Microsoft Store. Microsoft Store, you can access it on your computer by typing Microsoft Store. This is the store here. Okay. By default, you should also have Microsoft Store in your... Just here. What is this called? Toolbar, tax bar. Here. By default, except you are like me that have customized everything in my system and I hit the Microsoft button. So you can once again get in by just typing Microsoft Store, and this is it already. You can open from here and install Ubuntu if that interests you. The good thing about Ubuntu is that you can have Betty on your local machine. When you have Betty locally, practicing would be really easy for you. You'll understand how Betty works better. It doesn't mean you won't make these errors. Once you do it with practice, you would make more sense. So for today, let's start C from scratch. I created a group called Intents and created another folder. I said I created a group. I created a folder called Intents and created another folder called Day 1. And so inside these two folders, I'm going to have different C files. And my very first C file is going to be something called hello.c. As you already know, why we name all our extensions .c is if you have something to say, please use the in-call message for now. Thank you. Because it's been recorded, and if it's not so organized, even if you are watching this later in the house, somewhere else, you will not be able to, you won't be able to flow with the conversation. So let's try to keep it organized, and soon enough, I would ask live questions. But for now, if you have anything to say or give any feedback, maybe you're not hearing me, you can hear, or you want to ask something else, please use the in-call message. Thank you. We have our hello.c. Without the .c file, the compiler will not recognize this as a C program. Add your .c extension. I've seen that a whole lot for people who are practicing by themselves. They always forget to add their .c extension. All right, now let's go and compile this and speak a little bit about our compiler in C. Let's use the GCC to compile hello.c. It's compiled. Now let's list out what we have. We have an output file, and if I run this, I have hello team. Just to be clear, let me remove this hello one. Yes, so I have two files. One is the compiled version of LOC, which I can run, and it's A out. Assuming I don't want to have A out, I want to compile this program and run it, compile it, and save it to a name, more like hello, not A.out. How do I go about this? Let me first remove this A.out file. And if I want to compile this, what do I do? Using GCC. Turns out that to compile this using GCC, I'll do something like this. GCC, the name of the file, -o, and then the name I want to save it with. Let me go ahead and do that again. So this is the name of the file, hello.c. So I do GCC hello.c -o, and then the name of the file I want to save it with. So I can use hello. When I run this, if you list out what we have hello and then hello.c. So I can just do ./hello, run this, and it would print out the same thing that A.out file was printing. So if you're using Ubuntu here, always remember to save the file to an output name you want to call it, so that you don't have the ./a calling your file. That's boring. That's a little about the compiler and how you use GCC. Let's now discuss some of the things we have. This is an header file, and if we don't add this header file, then the system is going to assume we are illegally calling this printf, and that's why we have it. There are some things we have here too. Int main, and then these brackets. So this is a function, and later when we are talking about functions in C, we'll discuss a whole lot about functions. In some cases, you've seen things like int main void, but I'm clearly not putting void, and our code is still running without any complaints. We'll talk about void functions and functions will return value later on. But for now, you have to know that this is a function, and this function comes default to help us run our basic program in C. We've talked about the printf, a function that is included in our stdio.h. Now let's talk about something called the /n. So if I remove this /n and I try to run this program, what would happen? What would happen? We have hello team, and then we have Bwave at whatever the system name is, just here. This does not look fine. So what was our problem? So you can clearly see the new line was our problem. So adding a /n brings about a new line. But this slash itself is not the new line. It is the n that makes it a new line. So what is this slash? It's something called an escape sequence in C. Why is escape sequence important? In C, anything in between these quotes is what will count. Anything, these quotes themselves do not count. And that's why when we run this program, we don't get to see quotes, hello, theme quotes. We don't get to see these open quote and close quotes because they don't count. Rather, it's what we write inside of the quotes that counts. But let's assume I wanted to print out something like this. Let's assume I wanted to print out something like hello Bwave, hello Sharon. Let's use another name now. Hello Vincent. How do I print out this? Because if I try to do something like this, so I've just copied hello Vincent, and if I try to come here now and paste it, let me try to run this and let's see what we'll have. We already have an error just now, and it's giving us some kind of cryptic message. It's highlighting our Vincent, and it's telling us that it's expecting a bracket before it. So how do I fix this problem? I want to print out hello Vincent, but when I tried it, it didn't work. What do I do? That's where something called an escape sequence now comes in. Escape sequence is simply this. This slash here turns everything to an escape sequence. Not everything, but whatever follows this slash, C does not read it literally again. So whatever follows this slash here, C does not read it literally. In our case, a quote followed our slash. So C does not read these quotes literally. C sees these quotes as something else. Before, when you have quotes in C, quotes in your printf function here, C reads them as part of the printf function. So it will print anything. So it will print anything so by default, C would print everything in between our quotes, but not. I hope you can hear me. Yes, I'm sure you can. By default, we print everything in between our quotes. But when we put this escape sequence, C does not see the quotes as something it should ignore again. So by default, C would ignore this quote, but with this escape sequence, C would not ignore it. So if I'm to print something like hello Vincent, and I want the C not to ignore my quotes, I'll do something like this. Escape sequence here, escape sequence here. Let's try to see if we are making sense. And no errors whatsoever. Let's go ahead to compile this, and you can see we have hello Vincent. It's clear I forgot something, and that was my new line. So let me go and add the new line now. And once again, print this out. Hello Vincent. So escape sequence has a whole lot of usage. There are many things we can use them for. This is just the basic. You can go ahead to print out a whole lot of things with your escape sequence. You can find more about the escape sequence somewhere in the internet. So I would ask you, in case you are having issues printing out some things, you're getting some kind of weird errors when you use things like quotation marks or asterisks or commas, maybe you need to use an escape sequence in C. That's it about escape sequences. There are a whole lot of things we can still consider about the basic things we need in C. So let's go ahead now, and in this our hello.c, let's talk about data types. Let's talk about data types. Or before we talk about data types, let's talk about commenting in C. What is comment? What is comment in C? And how do we comment things out? Comment is what you use to give description to your program. Comment describes your program. So if this program was very long, comments will help you understand what each line is doing. And how do you comment in C? We have two ways, a multi-line comment and a single line comment. A single line comment is something as simple as this. In between, anything you write in between here now, the compiler doesn't read it. The compiler doesn't read it. So for example, let's describe what our printf is doing. This program prints hello Vincent. That's clearly what this program does. We've just commented this out. Let's go ahead and compile and see if our program would read it. And let's have hello. We have hello Vincent. As usual, I'm always forgetting my new line. And I don't know why. Maybe because it's been long, I had to code in C, in quotes. So let's compile this again and run this. We have hello Vincent. As you clearly see here, we don't have any of these things. But if I were to be smart and remove my comments and try to run this, watch what happens. We have so much errors just because I removed the comments. So as long as it's in the comments, your code will compile. But just as you may already be experiencing, you would have issues somewhere. So let me do this. Betty hello.c. And now we have errors with Betty. Let's compile this program again. We have errors with the compiler. Let me fix out these errors with the compiler first. And by commenting out my code again. So this is commented out, and my error with the compiler is supposed to be done. You can see it's my error with the compiler. I fixed my problem. But let's see our error with Betty. By doing Betty hello.c, we still have errors with Betty. So does my code work? Yes. Why is Betty giving me an error here and warning here? It turns out that Betty is a coding style. It's a coding pattern. Just the way you have writing styles and the rest, Betty follows the same principle. And Betty, being a coding style, has a way that you should code. And in that way, we now have errors following the style. This doesn't affect the way our program runs. So next time you have a Betty issue but your program is compiling, it means that you are not to touch your code, not your logic. It's just a style that Betty wants you to follow. Can you ignore it? Yes. Is it totally fine to ignore the style? Yes. So in some cases, you may decide to ignore that Betty checker. It's usually the last two checkers. Betty styles. One for Betty error and one for the Betty warnings. You may decide to ignore those two checkers and your code will still run correctly. The rest of your code would be green, and that's totally fine. Success is not measured by you passing all the checkers. And so this is it about Betty. I have Betty in my local computer because I installed Betty. So that moving on, we can be able to solve some kind of Betty related issues. And I think it's a good thing to actually solve a Betty related issue here. And so Betty here is telling me that our function int main should probably be int main void. You can see the error here, and Betty giving us the solution. So I don't have to ask someone on the group, what am I doing wrong? It's not working, because Betty has given me the solution. So let's go ahead and work with Betty's solution. It says that where we have int main should be int main, and we should put void here. If you remember, I did say very soon we'll talk about functions in C and things like void. So let's put our void here, and that error would be gone. So let's try Betty again. That error is gone, but now we have a warning, and the warning is that no description found for the function main, and our warning is in line 4. So it's expecting me to put a description. How do I put a description? It's as simple as it gets. Remember, we just talked about commenting. Description most times are multi-line, especially in the Betty format, because you would need to have a description of the function, of the main function, or whatever function you are using. In our case, we are using the main function, int main. That's why we are putting a description of the main function. You could also have a return value. Betty would also ask you to state the program return value of your function main, or whatever function you're using. And so you will need a multi-line comment, since you would be doing two things. The Betty way to do a multi-line comment is this: a slash here and two asterisks. Then we can go ahead to write main. And what does this main function do? Print out Vincent. We can come here now and put a return value. To do that, we have to use the capital U. So return 0. And lastly, we have to close our comments. If we don't close these comments, everything would be uncommented. You see, everything will be commented out. This our program would have issues running, so that compile problems. So we close our comments here, and let's see if that solved our problem. Now we have a different problem, and the problem we had before, we have the two. We have one that says block comments use a leading / asterisk on a separate line. And then this is a warning. And then we have another warning in line 7 that says no description found. The same warning we had, but we put a description. So how can we work with Betty's way of describing things? Would be the next logical question to ask. How do we work with that? There's a documentation for how Betty wants its description. And so it's maybe something we can try looking at. And so, since I've forgotten exactly where the Betty documentation is, let me see if I can get it from the README file on GitHub. From the place where I cloned my GitHub, I can see something. Yeah, and Chioma, I see you have a solution already for our problem. Thank you so much. In Betty's documentation from All Betting School, where I got my Betty that I put in my personal computer now, we have a Betty documentation. So I'm going to click on it now. It has taken me to the page And so we have a whole lot of documentation here. And if you're somebody like me that does not like reading, you may find this difficult. So I'm just going to go to this summary here and Betty style usage. Let me click on it, whether it can help me. So this is the Betty style usage. I already know this, how to do Betty file name. Betty doc usage. So how do I use that? So to check your C source files or C header files, this is how you can check for your C header files documentation or C source files. Not what I'm looking for. So let's see indentation. Now these are the coding styles. We have indentation, we have breaking long lines, we have placing braces, we have naming, we have functions, we have commenting. Out of all these coding style, which one matches our problem here? Let's go back and see our problem. BettyHello.c. We have description for the function main. And we have block comments using this on a separate line. So out of all of this, which one clearly matches what we are looking for? Which one matches what we are looking for? Let me go back to Betty page. And we have indentation, we have breaking long lines, we have placing braces, we have naming, we have function. So let me try this now, because it's saying no return value for the function. But here, Betty is not telling us about our return value. It's telling us how our functions should be. That by default, our functions must be 40 lines long, or else Betty would complain. So that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Let's try indentation. And this is how to indent. This is something that we've probably faced a whole lot. Something that talks about indentation. There's one indentation error Betty used to give. So maybe this can help. The example of how Betty works can help when you have such indentation errors. Now let's try commenting. If you over comment, Betty would give us a problem. And now let's see. Betty is saying we should not use this type of comment. We should use this. So it should have 2 lines here. And then each of the lines should have 1 asterisk. And a description. And then an asterisk at the end. So let's go check out if we followed all of this now. So we had 2 lines, 1, 1, 1, and that. Turns out that to be consistent, maybe I should have put both on the same line. Probably do something like this. And let's see now if Betty will get the description for the function main first. Let's see what we have. It does not still have the description for our function main. So that guesswork did not work, obviously, with Betty. This coding style. That is very annoying. Now let's go and see from the documentation what we can do to fix our issue. Because I followed the commenting syntax here. So let's look at breaking long lines, no. Placing braces, no. naming functions, we've checked commenting, we've checked header files, description for our function main. We don't have any of Betty's description, anything that Betty gives us here to describe our function main. Same, so we don't have it here. So let's just try things. This is breaking long lines. This is our header files. And I think from today, they started giving a main.h header file. So this is Betty problem for header files, how header files should be. And so what we are looking for is our return value. I can't seem to find it from here. So what do I do next? Because my problem is not from indentation. One option would be to read everything line by line and probably go to Betty coding style and search for it with Betty coding style in C. And search for the detailed Betty coding style explained by this person. That's one. Since the one by Albertine School was not too detailed. And another one is to use these W3 schools and search for how Betty wants its style to be. So this description should have a column of asterisks. Okay, and seems like our problem have something to do with here. So what do you think I should do now from what we've seen here, this Betty pattern? Description, a column of asterisks on the left side with beginning and ending almost blank lines. So what solves my problem here? From this whole description, from the pattern they gave me here, how do I fix it here now? What do you think I'm doing that I should discontinue or I should not do? What do you think I'm doing that I should not do? That is probably causing my problems. At this point, you can tell me, what do you think? Okay, Mr. Daniel, please.
Okay, am I audible, sir?
Yes, very, very clear.
Okay. I wasn't. Okay. Trading spaces, right?
Our problem is that we don't have a description for me. We don't have a description for our function main. That's our problem.
Sorry, you are breaking. I don't know if it's on my end.
Okay, any other person that's not breaking from his end? We clearly don't have a description from main. So Betty is finding fault with what we are doing here.
Okay, sorry. I see. Okay, the main description should be on the second, on its own individual line.
So this, so let's say this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would this fix our problems? Would this fix our problems?
I think yes, it does fix it. It will fix it. So definitely fix it.
Thank you. And so let's go ahead now and try this.
Hello,
sorry. So when we try this, you can see we have. Seems your network is quite bad.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, use the in-call message. Seems the network from your end is bad, or
What about now?
it's okay.
Okay, so in the code we're writing that we just wrote, we didn't have a return statement. I don't know if we're getting to that or that was an oversight.
Fine. So you are insinuating that we are getting this error because we do not have a return statement.
No. I'm just saying we don't have a return statement. I don't know if that's part of what we are
Okay.
supposed to add to the code.
Okay. Because we have a Betty issue that is very similar to what you're just saying. So I thought that's what you meant. Says no description found for the return value of main. So what could cause this now? Our return value says no description. But here I put a description for my return value. So
Hello,
what
sir.
is the color of my program?
Hello?
Yes.
Can I say something? That's why we used to turn the main and the return. The arrow of the return should be in capital letter.
The arrow of the return should be in capital letter. This would fix our problem.
Yes, and we should try and put space between the main and the return also.
We try and put spaces between the main and the return. Something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm very stingy with my space. I like to be very stingy with my space.
But it should work now. It should work.
And it works. So once again, something was not so nice. Our return statement was returning 0. But in our code, we had no statement returning 0. Yet Betty said it's okay. So it just brings you to this thing. It's a style, a coding pattern they want you to follow. So if I have Betty issues and Betty is what would keep me for a task for 1 hour, I would rather move on to the logic, to the concepts, rather than a coding style. When I'm done with all the compiling problems, I can now come back, if I still have time, to my coding style. I don't know if that's correct. So the next time you're having Betty issues in tax 1 and you're still in tax 1, 1 hour, 30 minutes, you should move on from tax 1. Leave the Betty problem there and go to tax 2. The coding style is not the most important thing when we are writing our codes. And just as Mr. Daniel rightly pointed out, we don't have a return statement. But neither Betty, of course, Betty has no business with our return statement in reality. But not even our compiler seems to have a problem with it. So why is it that we are putting a return statement in the first place? The answer is simple. When our code works well, we are expected to return 0. So if you've tried the default code on code blocks there, if you had it, and you did practice anything, you would notice that the code blocks, when it runs your program on the compiler, on your terminal, it's going to give you a message saying your process exits with 0. This 0 here means there's no problem at all. If it has 1, 2, 3, any other number it has indicates some kind of issues, except if you're the one that implicitly declared that your program should return with 404, or maybe you try to do something like 419, that your program should return with 419. And of course, when you run your code, your program is going to run and would return with 419. But here on shell, it's not going to show you your return value. On your normal terminals, it may do that. All right. So before I get distracted and continue to write 419, let me change this to return 0. Of course, you don't want to push your code returning 419 to GitHub, so that somebody looking at your code wants to interview you, wants to give you an offer, and just decides to go through your code and sees that your return value was 419. You get how these village people they work. So please don't use the return value of 419. Use 0. 0 means everything worked out well. And that's why we are returning 0. In almost all the Betty styles you would see, people would return 0, because it means our program was successful. In most of my styles, I used to write return 0, always success. That is, my program should always have success and return 0. So far, I think everything should be clear. Let's move over to our next topic I want to consider for today. And that would have to do with data types. Everything we do is represented in data. It's data to the computer. Remember those primary school definition of the computer? An electronic device that accepts input, convert it to data. It turns out that now, if you used to have that definition about computer before, you are what would give it data now. You are going to specify the data to this your computer. So you can say that a computer is your product these days, your tool, where you give it some kind of data and the computer works with. So what data types do we have in C? There are a couple of them and they have different usage. But the one that we want to focus on today are the most popular ones that you would use a whole lot. They are to represent number, characters, decimals. And what else can we represent with our data types? We've talked about numbers, characters, decimals. What else can we represent? Try to think. There are a whole lot of things. We could go on to represent Boolean for true or false, but we don't need to do that so many times. So the things we'll basically represent most times have to do with these three things: numbers, characters, and data types. But there are 4 most popular data types. That's because we have another kind of data type that is similar to a decimal, but takes more than a decimal. So it's called a double or a float. I can change this decimal to float. And so let's talk about a little about these data types. The first data type we want to talk about is the int data type. The int data type takes number, as we see here. So next time you see int, it means anything that follows its number. Whenever you see int, it's telling the computer that this data that follows this int is a number. Another one is something called a char or a car. Anything you call it, that's okay. This car, what does it take? It takes one single character. So I'm not going to use characters. I'm going to use one single character. Something like A or B or C. That's what this car takes. Also have something that takes a decimal. You could replace this decimal with floating points number. And this is called a float. So it takes numbers that have points in them. 2 points, 3 points, 1 point. And the last one would be looking at also takes decimal, but it deals with larger numbers. So if this decimal should take about 4 bytes as space in your computer memory, we are saying that this double takes larger, a double of what your floats take. It takes about 8 bytes. What about ints? Ints takes about 4 bytes. That is, when we talk about bytes, we are saying the space. But these bytes it takes depends on your computer. There are computers with 64-bit system and there are 32-bit Windows. This one I'm using is a 64-bit, and so int should take about 4 bytes. But in a 32-bit system, it would take about 2 bytes. But mostly 4 bytes because most people would use the 4-bit system. What about our character here? Our char. It takes one character and it uses 1 byte. So it's not a greedy man at all. Our float and decimal, as we've earlier said, use 4 bytes or 2 bytes, depending on how the case is. Why are these data types important to me? What would I use all these data types to do? We use it to store what we call a variable next. So remember your project on variables, if else. These data types are used to store variables. What are variables? You remember what we did in shell, where we assigned variables. I'm sure you do. So if I should do vi shell now, we assign variable by giving it a name, and then this name should have a value. So I'm going to give this variable a name of score, and then this score should be, what should this score be now? Let's go and check now what this score should be. Now someone wants to tell us, someone that knows what I'm probably checking for. What our variable score would be. All right, so you can clearly see our variable here. Our variable would have to be 2. So our variable would be, we'll store 2 inside this score. And this is a variable in shell. If we want to call out a variable, we'll do something like echo. Then what would we put inside this echo? The score is, and then we'll call the name of the variable, which is score. Right? And then we finish this off. And we can save and quit. This thing that we've done in shell, we are going to do it again in C. If you were in around when we are doing this in shell, you will recall that I did say these things would come in handy when you start C again. So back to what we had in shell. This variable takes in a name and then a value. And to call it, we call the variable name. In C, what we do is not so different, to be honest. Not so different at all. Let's change mode for our shell. Oh, u plus x, and then shell. Let's try to run shell. And the score is 2, so everything works very well. In C, this whole thing we are doing, it's not so different when we talk about variables in C. Let me compare now using my notepad here. So one thing is clear. A variable takes in a name and a value. In shell, name, value. In C, a variable also has a name and a value. And then you record what brought me to this variable topic. I was asking what concerns data types with me in C. Why should I be interested in data type? And I say because they have a whole lot to do with variables. So it turns out that in C, unlike Python, we have to also specify the data type. And that's quite different from shell and maybe Python. So in Python, you can just say something like score 2 or score 2. Just the way it is here in shell or similar to it. But in C, we'll have a name called score, a value called 2, and then a data type. So where do we put that data type? The data type is determined by what you want to store. So you can't come and say char here. Because this is not a character. This is a number. So this data type will be int. Int score 2. This may seem a little familiar with what you've done or what you've seen so far. So with these things don't just appear by magic. It means that this variable name is score. It's of the type integer and it takes a value of 2. What if people want to have a variable that print out something of a floating point number? So a floating point number is decimal. Let's go back now to where I got my sure update from at this time. So let's say 2.0, right? 2.0. So let's use this variable now inside our notepad. 2.0. How do I store this? I could also use the same variable name. Of course, in your code, you don't want to do this. So I could say scores. But in here now, I'm not going to use int because an integer takes in a whole number. So I'm going to use something called a float. Why float? Why not double? Because double deals with larger numbers. Not some kind of small decimal precision like 2 points. So a float here represents this decimal number. With doing this, I'm assigning 2.0, this value, to this variable of this type. And so anywhere in my code I want to call it, it's simple. I just go ahead to call my variable. And once I call my variable, it would give me the value the same way it did the shell. When we echo the score is score, when we ran our code, you clearly saw that it gave us the value. It didn't tell us the score is score, but it told us the score is 2. The same thing it also does in C. So let's call this variable.c now, and in here, to make sure, as good practice, you want to keep writing this every time so it just gets to stick in. And if you're using Ubuntu, like I would advise, so that you get familiar with probably the annoying Betsy and its syntax, you can just be, this Ubuntu would come in handy because it would allow you practice a lot. Let's play a little with things we've done now, like storing a value to a variable. So let's say we want to store the scores just as we've done now. 2.0. And in here, I want to print out, just the way I did with echo, I want to print out the score is, what do I do? I have a challenge on my hand. And remember I said these whole classes will be directed at problem solving a whole lot. Trying to fix out the issue. What do I do? How do I solve this? I have no idea what to do now. Just the way you have in most of your projects, where you have no idea what to do, but you have a challenge at hand. Let's assume that I have no idea what to do. What do I want? You can go on and tell me, what do you think I have to do? I have no idea what to do, but I want to print out this value of my variable. In shell, I'll do echo. I want to print out this 2.0. What do I do?
The format specifier.
I have no idea what format specifier is. Thank you, but I have no idea what format specifier is. What do I do? Now, this is where the problem. Favor says, ask Google. Mr. Olariwanju say you can frame the question to what Google will understand and search. Thank you. You know, before now, if you were chatting with someone and you ask the person a question and the person tells you ask Google, most time, more likely than not, that response will seem to you like a rude one. To be like, I'm asking you a question, you're telling me to ask Google. Don't I know that Google is there before I'm asking you? But if you are going to be successful programmers, then you have to get used to the word ask Google. You don't know what to do, your first person to ask should be Google. So how do I ask Google this question? I want to print out the value of scores, but I don't know how to do it. Bang, bang. What do I do here now? Seems like I have more issues than not. So how do I ask Google? Someone should tell me. This is the problem solving now. This is what yeah, Favor says it sounds offensive, but actually it's not. Very one of the best suggestions someone can give you. So how do I ask Google? can tell me, you can unmute now and tell me, if it were you, how would you ask Google? Your essence of this is so that on the group, you get to limit the hello, please, it's not working. It's not, somebody should come to my aid. It's not working. That's the whole essence of this. If you understand this, you get to limit the, it's not working. You understand that it's now your responsibility to make it work. So how would you ask Google if it were you? Anyhow you will do it, tell me. What I want to do is print out the value of scores, which is 2.0. So how do I do it? Maybe okay, Mr. Olarewanju says, how do I print out the value stored in a variable C in C programming language? I like this one, so let's try it. Let's see what we get here. Just copied it. How do I print out the value stored in a variable in C programming language? It took me 0.59 seconds to get an answer from Google. The first one is from Programmies. I also have from computer.howstuffwork. I also have, so I have different answers, and then I have one video. And this video says 2 variables and prints output. Bam. Does that sound like what I'm looking for? Yes. But this video is 9 minutes. So since I'm rushing, if I can just simply get written material that talks about it, would be better, right? That's what I'm going to do now. Open my first one. And what I'm saying here is some code. C program to print an integer entered by the user. A. And from here now, how does this help me? Let me try to read this code now as a novice. This first one, I know it. Second one, I know. This third one, the variable, there's no value. This guy don't make mistake. Right? He has made a mistake. Because look at my own now. I have a value. Him, he does not have any value. Our guy has made mistake. I don't trust him. Probably go to another person and check this person, this website, what he did. And I'm saying printing variables, basic format specifiers in C. I just want to know how to print variable. So let me ignore everything there. Okay, one example, int main, int I. What was my own variable name? Int scores. They resemble 10. And print a value of I equal to percent D, new line, then I. So it seems like I have some kind of expo here, and let me just copy it. Percent D and I. Abi? Copy. Or to be sure, let me just copy out all the printf statements. I don't want to hear story. And come here. Let me comment out this side. So this is a valid way of commenting in C, but not by Betty. Only Betty knows why. Let me print out this. The value of I equals to percent D / I. Bam. Let me try to compile my. Let me try to compile my. What's the name of the file I want to compile? var.c. Oh, I have an error already. Another error. What do I do from here? I have another error from something that I just saw from Google. I have another error.
You did not change. Hello?
Yes.
You didn't change the variable name from the one you copied to match with your own variable name.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so I went to copy from somebody and copy both the person's name and join. It's clear now.
Yes.
But assuming this was only me and I do not have this my helper now to bail me out. Sorry, the background is noisy. That's why I had to mute it. If I do not have this my helper to bail me out, and nobody is online because everybody has gone to watch match, what would I do to solve my problem? What do you think I can do to solve my problem? Because how do I want to ask Google this question? Is Google I copied from, I got error. What do I do next to solve this problem? Remember, all we'll be doing throughout the next 3 weeks is to see how we can solve problems. What do I do to solve my problem? What do you think?
I think pay attention to your error message because it has indicated.
Thank you. It's something very few people do. They don't read the error message. All they see is error and bam. You just see someone pick up his phone and snap his computer screen and send. It's not working. At first, to read this error message may look so stressful, and at one time all of us were in this boat where we pick up our phones and snap the computer screen and send to some kind of guru talk to us. But you can be the guru of your own self by reading your error message and trying to understand it. So let's read this error message we have now and see if these things you've learned today can help you tomorrow when you have a new project. Let's read. In function main, we have an error in variable.c, our file, line 8, word 29. And the error is that this I, the error is this I. It says it's undeclared. I have no idea what this means. In brackets, here now helps me to understand. First use in this function. So this I appearing for the first time in this function. And where is this I? Look at it. Print f, value of I equal to %d. So this our %d was correct. At least the compiler did not see any problems with it. But it's highlighting our I and says it's our first use in this function. So it's about me to think. And then here there's a note. They says each undeclared identifier is reported only once for each function it appears in. So I have a problem with my I, first use in this function. So is it not supposed to be the first use? Is it supposed to be the first use? Here's where I would think. Then I'll start to ask myself, what brought me to this point where I even copied, I've commented out my code and used another borrowed code. Why am I copying this? What was I trying to do in the first place? If you recall, I was trying to print out the value of scores, which is 2.0. The value of scores. And all of a sudden here, I have I. Because from the Google where I copied from without reading so well, this person had int I, had int scores, but I did not care to check because I was in a hurry. to get my answers. So I have to calm down now, relax, and think. Maybe I should change this I here to scores, or this scores here to I. If I'm not so sure, I will change my scores here to I, just to be clear first. See if it would work. You know, as a beginner, that's what I would do to try to solve this problem. Let me run this. No errors. Wonderful. Now let me compile this. And it says the value of I is equal to 2. Wonderful. At this point, you can now start clapping for me because I am a C programmer. No easy. So you should celebrate your little wins. Very important.
Now you can see.
Yes. I can see. I can see. I can see. I can see. As it is now, I don't need. I think my video has been up since I can see now. I hope you can see mine. Before I was using this glass, but now I can see, so I can remove it with my variable that I've declared. With my variable that I've declared, I can now see. Anything C, just call me there. I would answer you. So back to what we're doing, but we have another small problem that maybe happiness over happiness did not allow me to notice. But if you had noticed it, value of I is equal to 2. And here we have int I 2.0. If you had noticed our problem, can you tell us what I have done that seems like they like say I dey see small, but I never dey see well? Can you tell us if you noticed?
Sure. Value 2.0. So we're supposed to use rows instead of things.
Oh. Look at these simple somethings. What I don't know. It's like I can't see again. No. Let me wear my glass back. I can't see. So you've just proved me now that I can't see. I should change it to floats. Fine. Now let's try to run this again. So maybe I will be talking small now. Hi. Problem. Oh. Now why? Oh, this is the reason why I don't like to follow advice I just get. And see advice now that somebody gave to me. My program was not having error before. Now it has error. So what do I do now? What do I do here? I think I'll screenshot it and send on the group and say, it's not working. Oh, come and help me. That's what I would do. Or if you were me, what would you do? What would you do? Or this is what I would have. Okay, someone wants to tell us something. Mr. Igwe, are you using an earpiece? Can you remove it and speak directly to your computer system so that it can be clear?
Yes, I'm saying that we have to change the identifier from %T to %F for float. Since we already changed our int to float.
Thank you. Mr. Vincent, is it your background? I'm hearing that noise. A free kick.
Yes, it's my background, sir.
Wonderful. I beg you. It's okay. Since you have reminded me of that one now, later I will come back to your solution, but make I confirm something. Okay, we are safe. We are safe. Now I can come.
I want to know, is this video recorded?
Yes, it is. It's recorded for you.
Please, I hope you share it because people like me are join later.
Because of who you are, we are going to share this video.
Because of that. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. All right. So back to what we were saying before that little break. I was just minding, going, just doing my thing. Then Mr. Vincent decided to answer question, and I was now hearing some background noise. Back to it. When you look at the error again, before you send a message, it was someone who told me to change the int to float. And then it gave me this whole cryptic message here. And this is what I wanted to say that first time when I saw this thing. Yes, I wanted to say now why I know they agree ask question for the group be this. They go give me answer that would spoil my code. But that's not true. Even if they give you an answer and that answer doesn't work for you, just read your error message. It's very important. If you have sent me screenshot and told me it's not working, you would know that by default, the next question I would ask you is, what is your error message? And very soon you will stop having these error messages. So pay attention to every single error message you have, because today or from tomorrow, the C debugging project, no error message. We'll do the C debugging on Thursday, by the way, live here. We'll do it live. But try to, as much as you can, read your error message. It would help you. In this one, we don't have an error. We have a warning. Errors and warning are not the same. For example, let's go ahead to run this code. Our code runs, but we now get value of I is minus 325477752. I have a crazy figure there. That one minus 3254. When I saw this 3254, I wanted to say that would be somebody's account number before this year finish. But when I saw the minus, I was like, no, the account will not be showing minus before this year. So our program is running clear, but the value of I is now, remember what our code was, 2.0. Don't they give me minus one thing. So it turns out that the way C is reading %D when I'm using floats does not make sense at all. C reads %D if I'm using floats as my variable type, and then I'm using %D to call it. They enter C head at all. So it's C has started seeing what I don't know. So to fix this problem, I just have to look at this warning. Format %D is my problem, is the warning. It expects a argument of type int, but argument 2 has the type of double. Of course, we use float here, but now we see double. The reason is simple. It's because double and float are the same thing, just that double takes a larger value and float takes a lower value. That's the only reason why double and float are not the same in this case. Other than that, we should be fine with floats and double. So by reading our warning, you can see I have a head start of what to do. If I'm going to use %D, then I must use type int. If I want to use the type double or type floats, I should use %F. Inside our warning, inside this problem, we have the solution. Your work is to look at the problem and read it well and look at the solution. If you had noticed these past few days, if you send me an error to check, I would ask you, if you send me a screenshot or you snap your, sending a screenshot on computer is actually different from snapping your computer screen. If you do any of the two, I would probably ask you to send me the link to your GitHub page so I see it from there. And when I see it, what I just look at is I try to see if I was the one writing this code, what would I not have written? Then I'll circle it for the person. It's not the work of any genius to do that. A genius is someone who will write very complex programs with this C. And even I, most complex program I've written with C is the simple shell, a program you would write in the next 2-3 months. So it doesn't take you to be a genius to actually figure these things out. Focus. Once you get this problem, what you should think first is to just calm down and be like, yeah. I'm a problem solver. So we have another problem. I have another work to do. So how do I start? Don't rush, don't panic. If you feel tired, rest. If you feel troubled, tend to whatever is troubling you at that time, then come back to solve the problem. Yeah, I know someone somewhere would say, you don't understand the deadline. If you don't pass this deadline, they are going to remove you. For most of you here in my special class, I've already said don't bother about your deadlines. Even if your score is 20 or 15 or 10 or 5 or even 1% now, you will pass the probation if you follow along with me. A time is coming when I will now tell you to get serious with your scores, and of course I will tell you what to do to get the needed scores you need. But for now, focus more on your problem solving. When we get to the final week of the probation or very close to it, I'll show you how to do your scores for all those in my special intense learning class. So you can just comfortably focus on the learning. And there's someone focusing on learning right now, and yes, this course is like we'll update our score variable now because someone somewhere is focusing on learning right now. I hope you can see my screen, and yes, that makes a whole lot of sense. And from what I'm seeing here, it's like now I would focus a whole lot on teaching you. My mind don't come down. So any question you ask now, you can be sure I will answer.
Yeah, that's it, Pap.
Let's now. I no talk amo. Now you talk amo. Now we've changed this thing to a percent. We've changed this thing to a percent F. Let's go ahead and run this now and see. Let's run it again so that you see what happens. No errors. Hope you get the lesson. Focus a whole lot on your learning. Reading errors, solving problems, and you'll do very well. Now, I have something that is another problem here now as we speak. Value of I is equal to 2.0, yes, 0.0000. Wait till me this. Seems like true I cannot see you. Maybe I would get a second eyeglass to wear to see if I can see. How does this look on me, sir? And this second eyeglass, let me throw it away first. So you people should help me. What do I do here now? I was looking for 2.0. See the code now. 2.0. But now I will change it though. I will change it. I have to change it. Because in life we are going forward, not backward. So it will be 3.0. I have to change it to 3.0. But when I compile my code. You can see 3.0 here. Now look at me running my code. I'm saying 3.0000. What do I do next? Variables and data type. We never even go anywhere. Everything I'm doing seems to have one problem or the other. What do I do? Can someone bail me out? Tell me the next. I want it to show only 3.0. It's showing 3.000. Can anybody help me with solution? So Favor is laughing at me because my problem has to do with something with village. Yes, Mr. You can see my code. This is my code. I followed everything. Oh, I followed everything. Now see. This C self, I don't tire. So there are sometimes you actually.
Yeah, I think it's because it's in float.
Okay, because it's in float.
Supposed to be percentage D.
Supposed to be percentage D.
Supposed to be percentage D.
That's where we just came from now. That was giving me minus 3 points. This. When I ran away and come to float. Now we'll go back to there. Are you sure that will help our life?
It looks like it's giving a double boost.
Okay. So there is guesswork here now. More like it looks like, it feels like, what do we do? Who do we not tell to help us? Who do we tell to help us? Who do we tell to help us?
Help me! 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 If they carry me, they go where I don't know.
He is carrying me to where I don't know now. How can you help me? Your hair? Because these are problems you will face while writing your codes. And the next person will not always be available to solve it. So how do you help yourself?
Question. I'm not follow 100%.
This is our code. Can you see our code?
Yeah, I can see it.
3.0. I came to compile it. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
Hi. I need help.
Help me! 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 If they carry me, they go where I don't know.
Standard format that the float format specify our friends. Always takes 6 decimal places.
Fine. The standard, according to your explanation, is 6 decimal places. Right?
Yes.
But in my code and what I want, what the user wants, what the checker wants is how many decimal place here? You can unmute that 1. So how do I reduce this 6 decimal place to 1 decimal place? Would be what is going to be on my mind now. I like the way you just said it. That's the first step. Okay, since I did everything right and it's printing 3.000, that means the default standard is that it gets to print about 6 decimal places. And that makes a lot of sense. Understanding this alone, my problem is now reduced. All I'm looking for is something that is going to print to 1 decimal place. So I will go to Google now to help me. So what can I search in Google to help me? What can I search for? What can I search for? Your hair. What can I search for? What can I search for? I'm doing some kind of search here. Well, I'm waiting for your no. Okay. Doing some kind of search. So I'm waiting for you. Is life not funny? 9, 8, 3. Funny, Abby. So what can I search here? Possession 6139. I'm searching a different thing. Oh, can you help me? Okay, Mr. Igwe says you can search for the data type that prints 1 decimal place. Fine. So I can come here and say how to print 1 decimal in C using %f or using float. Let's see. We have something, and in look at how many seconds, 0.54 seconds. Even if I'm online, if you send me a message, there's no way in 0 points, not even up to 1 second, I will reply. But Google here has replied. You see why the next time someone tells you ask Google, the person is helping you. Be faster. It's just for you to think, what do I search for? How do I ask my question? There is nothing you want to ask that the answers are not here, because you are not the first person to ask. Ask Google. Feel free with Google. And we have something now that says how to print floating numbers with a specified precision from Geeks now. I don't even cram this website. I just ask Google and Google gives me the best. So this is like the output we got 3.000. And now we want to print a specified one. Okay, in C, there's a format specifier. To print 4 digits after the dot, so we can use 0.4f in the printf. I don't know if this is clear. To print 4 digits after the dot, we can use 0.4f after in printf. So with this knowledge we've gotten from that site in Google, once you get what you want, leave there before the rest things will confuse you. It's actually important. Once you get what you're looking for, leave there first, so that you don't get confused because of too much information. With 0.4f and printf, how can I, with this information now, that if I want to print 4 digits after the dots, so in my case I had, how many digits do I want to print after the dots? Can someone tell me?
1 digit.
Fine. So what can I change here now with this info I've gotten to be able to print 1 digit after the dots?
0.1.
0.1.
0.1f.
Fine. So let me copy this now and see how I can do this in my printf. So where do I put the 0.1f? Yeah.
In your printf statement.
Fine, in my printf statement. So like this.
No. Percentage.1f.
Percentage like this.
.1f.
.1f like this.
Yes, thank you, yes. That's fine.
Man, many things I never see. I thought I could see, but now, many things I never even see. Let's go and try this. No errors. Now let's run this. Oh, you are a guru.
Yes,
You are an expert. When we talk about expert, that's what you are now. Then we have our 3.0. He just changed everything. We're even trying to follow what we got from Google. That whole thing like this. And boom. Before we knew what was happening, he just said we should abandon the zero. So if we do it like this, would it still work? Now this is your personal learning. Why not try it? Why not try it and see if it will still work? Does it work?
Okay. Yeah, it works.
To do it the other way works. But now, between the two methods, which one is easier to write? Which one is easier to write between the two methods?
I would prefer 0.1.
Yes, Mr. Ibrahim, we can see. I've removed my glass again. No, I can see. Wait. You said you prefer 0.1.
Yes.
Who else is like me that would prefer .1? Anything that makes me write shorter code is what I should be looking for. Now, it's a matter of preference. What do you prefer? What would be easier to understand by the next person reading it? And so this is where your logic comes in as a problem solver. What would be easier to understand? What would be better? These are questions you ask yourself, you find the answers, and then you decide. Now you know how to solve problems. We've dealt a lot with one data type and variable that could give you issue. And with what we've talked about so far, can go on and attempt other things. Let's create a dummy story now that I would like us to try and this dummy story, let's call it our challenge for the day. Something you should do. And on Thursday, we move over, we work with that. Let's call it our challenge. And let's say I want to print hey, and where is my challenge? It's clear that I can't find my challenge, so I'm just going to write it down now. I want to print these words now, so let me remove everything. So let's just say a short story about John. And check how this challenge helps you to see the beauty of using variables. John was a coder. How does it even feel to say someone was a coder? Like, what's that? But let's leave it like that. It codes in assembly. Because he is in school. Oh, seems violence have caught up with me there. So let's do something. All right. Once your system is full, remove it, unplug it from charging. But of course, I can understand in case your NEPA is not so reliable and you unplug your system from charging, it's light, and just when use the low battery, try to plug it back and NEPA take light, everybody will blame you. Don't say it's me that say you should unplug your system. But if it's full, to preserve your battery health, do unplug your system from charging. Okay, now let's continue with our story. He had a CG. What's happening? CGPA of 4.0 in year 3. He also had a CGPA of 4.0 in year. Okay, let's change this to 2. Now let's do some kind of repetition. So let's do this 3 and repeat again to 4. Now let's change this to 3.6. Let's remove all the he and replace it with John. And let's add more and a grade of 8. Let's do this now. Okay. So this short story, you have to write this in C. What would you do? What you have to write short story in. What will you do? From here to here. Write it out in C. From what you've learned so far, what would you do? What would tell me? What would you do? I hope you can hear me clearly. What will you do? This short story, you're asked to write it now. What will you do?
I hear you, but the challenge is knowing what to do.
That's a good challenge. This is problem solving. So, how would you do this? If I were you, what I would do is, I'm not sure he's asking a question entirely out of what we've done so far. So how has everything we've done so far connect with what I'm saying here? Or how can everything I've learned today, just now, help me do this? What have we learned? We learned about our commenting in C.
Your connection is cracking now.
Okay.
Clear.
All right. So let's hope it's from your side, because I can also hear you very clearly. So I'm going to ask myself, what have we learned so far? We learned about commenting in C. How can I put this into practice here? We learned about some kind of escape sequence in C. So let's add this now. And then we've also learned about some kind of, what else have we learned about variables and data types in C? How does all these things that we've learned, escape sequence, variables, data type, commenting, how can I put everything together to print this out? That's what I'll be asking myself. Once you ask yourself that question, you'll find it easy. Here, looking at this now, what should I put in a variable? What word will need an escape sequence? Why did he deliberately repeat these 3 lines? What should I do with that information? These are things you can ask yourself to be able to solve this kind of issue.
Hello.
Can you, if you're not talking, can you please mute? Because we're having over.
Hello, can I try?
All right, so tell us. Yes, go on, please. Can you hear me? Go on.
Yeah, I'm saying that I think you have to declare the variables for John's CGPA. Okay. You have to declare variables for John's CGPA and grade. So CGPAs are the 4.0 and had another 4.0 and what? 8.6, right? So since the floats, okay, floats, then the first GPA will come in the 4.0, and another CGPA will come in the second year 4.0, and the third and the fourth. He had E in, I think, 4 years, right? So that one to be character. So the child grade 1, and E, equal to E, then the second year to E, then the third and fourth. Then after you print out the statement you give him, John was a coder. Yeah, so in the first year, you input the function and then you set the, like the one we just did, and the percentage 1F so that it will print the exact float number, like 4.0. And then the character, that's the A.
Okay, thank you so much.
Then you do the same thing for the rest of the pages.
Thank you so much. So, as while you think about what to do, I would give this as the first challenge of this whole class, for you to come up with a solution to this very easy but yet exciting challenge. And on Thursday, we'll look at it. But how would you do that? You're going to write this story using everything we've learned. And then you write another story. But this program should just replace all where we have John and all where we have grade A with D. This program would help you get master variables, and you're going to do things and face challenges probably have not faced up to this point. This is the real learning. So take it seriously. This is a real learning. This is going to be the challenge. I'm going to drop this on all the WhatsApp group I am right now. I'm going to drop this challenge there. How do you submit? You push your work to a GitHub repo called C Learning. And the repository should be day 1. Day 1. Push your work to the GitHub repo called C Learning. The repository should be day 1. Should we do some other hard thing, like changing the branch name? No. Use any branch you like.
I have my hands raised up, but I don't want to interrupt.
You've already done so. Go ahead now.
Okay. Sorry about my manners. What I wanted to say is that I need this class more, but unfortunately I came late, not because I'm a perpetual latecomer, but because I was in another class earlier, meeting. So, but on me coming here, I see that this is where they're talking what I really need here. So you've said a lot. I mean, I came in like about 20 minutes ago, and most of what you said earlier I've missed out. So is there going to be a recording of this class? Or how, for so many people like me also, how do we tend to be on the same page with those that have been following earlier? Thank you.
Okay, yes, there's going to be a recording of this class, and the message I just sent now is my WhatsApp number, so you could chat me up on there. You could chat me up there, and I would answer any questions you have. You should push your work to this repository called Learning, and what's that? The folder, the directory. Let's use the word directory. Should be day 1. EWC learning and then directory day 1. I really want to see how you do this anyhow, but what I don't want to see is that you don't do it, because it's your learning, not mine actually. But these little things will just challenge you now, and you see where you have to start from. On Thursday, we are going to look at if statements, else statements. We are going to look at assignment operators in C.
Please, I didn't get that number.
I just sent it on the message.
Please.
Check the message now.
It's on your phone.
Okay, let me copy it now.
Exactly. Better. So the easiest of all of these. So just put a... Please, you can mute so that we don't have the whole back. The easiest of everything here, okay, so just put it in 60 seconds, is first create your repo. I've used Ubuntu throughout, and there's a reason why I asked you to download code blocks, and then I decided at the end I'm going to use Ubuntu, and my Ubuntu here has Betty in case I just want to check how things with Betty. I've installed it. So I would advise you to install Ubuntu. Once again, follow what I said. Install it from Microsoft Store, so you don't waste 3 gigabytes downloading Ubuntu that would make your system heavy. Install it from Microsoft Store, and it's very lightweight there, very compatible, and it works. You can see how fast it's opening and closing from here. It tells you how really light it is. Once you do this, clone your repo here and put your directory now on whatever repo. It is day 1. The directory should be day 1. There's no support. There's not space. Name. Not in practice. So day 1 here, and then put your answer, whatever you call the file. It's up to you. And for the first 10 minutes of what we'll do on Thursday, we'll do this question for the first 10 minutes. Then we'll move over to what things we'll talk about. But today, I had a great time with you, and as always, our CGP. Someone saying something.
chat is asking about the intensive class.
Actually, that's what we're doing right now. That's where you are. This is what we're doing. And okay, to join the group. All right, to join the group, you send me a message. This is the class. To join the group, you send a message. Thanks, guys. It's 10:07 and I'm excited to do this with you. And even more excited to do this with all of you. Until 8 p.m. on Thursday, try to join us early. Of course, this is being recorded. And that would be it for today. I hope you did enjoy a whole lot from this video. And if you benefited from it, please kindly subscribe to my channel, like this video, and drop a positive comment. If you also have questions, go ahead and ask me in the comment section. Until I see you next time, it's a goodbye from me.